My hope for this project was to satisfy two parallel interests I believe we all share. On one hand, the common desire to strive for a better world, for us, our fellow terrestrials, and our children. The other, of course, is to simply lose oneself in a fantasy, an escape which allows us to reflect, dream, and plan for the former. The overarching project is, in a way, a call to expand the human temporal and relational sensibilities. These orientations are essential to developing the frameworks, infrastructures, and governance strategies capable of acting at the deep timescales of our most urgent crises. Doing so through a fiction allows us to consider them without being paralyzed by contemporary issues. After all, we put these structures together in the first place, we should be able to reconfigure them. Architecture as a discipline finds itself central to this pursuit. As a framework, ordering process, and navigational system, the methodologies and skill sets within are integral to developing novel solutions for these vexing crises. The products in this project are authored by a wide range of characters, hoping to provide a wealth of different perspectives and instill within the viewer a frame of mind with which to consider the following fictions. As such, a letter from the head archivist at UNX introduces you to the project.
I hope this letter finds you well, and that the enclosed documents have arrived intact. I was touched by your earlier letter. Not many in your generation bother to concern themselves with histories such as these. Your curiosity is a breath of fresh air, if I'm being honest. I can't tell you how much it frustrates me to watch the goings-on of today blindly hurtling towards so many mistakes we've already seen made. The eyes are open, but no one bothers to look backwards anymore. Full speed ahead, as we've always said.
Is an relatively relevant concept, and the exercise of graphically representing it doubly so. The fallacy of linear time has been burned into our consciousness over generations, and it has long overstayed its welcome. I write fallacy not because it is inherently false, for who can really say perhaps time is in fact linear, but because it cripples our understanding of the world and ability to cope with the most crucial realities of existence, particularly as a collective.
As you must understand, art tends to parallel history, and we have a bad habit of forgetting that by studying representations and accounts, there is far more to see than face value content. To borrow words from one of the figures you'll soon encounter, these immutable and recombinable mobiles have been the foundation of our systems of knowledge, exchange, and growth since we took up reeds and painted on the walls of caves. Plenaes was peculiar amongst its cohort of avant-garde, pardon my expired language, collectives, for several reasons. Their longevity, for one, was remarkable. The formulation of the group occurred outside of the public eye and was secretive for quite some time. We're still discovering connections between historical figures who we always assumed were operating in autonomy. Based on the diaspora of evidence we have available, we're also forced to consider the possibility that Plenaes wasn't a group at all. Perhaps it makes more sense as some kind of externality that individuals align with across time and space. Given your background and interest, I feel you will likely share the emphasis Plenaes places on architecture, environments, and representations of both. It seems they leaned towards a flatter ontology, one which considered architecture itself, as well as a plurality of objects, life forms, artifacts, etc., as actors with intrinsic significance. I have included some special documents from an architect we believe was involved with the group that should bring some of these considerations to light for you.
Oh, how I long for those days to be back, to forgo this constant sense of unfamiliarity. It distracts one so from the beauties of quotidian life. My solid foundation, the background to which I was so used to setting the motion and excitement of life is gone. The damn quotas don't allow for anything to stay up more than a year. I swear the skyline changes more than Sharon changes her outfits.
What we have in our collection are documents perhaps created by members of the group, perhaps documented, or simply retrieved by them. Either way, the Plenaes documents are one of the few remaining repositories of information from before the Singularity. They constitute narratives which seem to be truths about our past, although we cannot be completely sure of what is factual and what may be fictitious, as seems to be the hallmark for most of the work associated with Plenaes. Regardless, common belief can be said to constitute truth, can it not? At UNX, we find it most beneficial to simply take this evidence at face value. Even if everything you're about to read turns out just to be a fable, they still hold valuable lessons. Given the unprecedented erasure of knowledge the Singularity brought about, the only way forward is to accept a common history, and this one is as good as, if not better, than any other. Although the motivations of Plenaes for creating, collecting, preserving these documents are somewhat unclear, we have found with them a manifesto explaining the group's beliefs and positions. It seems that each collection deals with particular themes, ideals, and issues central to the thinking of the group, and their beliefs regarding societal progress. The chronology is perhaps intentionally unclear, but I've ordered the documents the best I can, and included a piece from the journal of one known as the Timekeeper. It should help give context, even if it doesn't really clarify. I have regrettably, on occasion, had to redact pieces of information, usually personal or identifying details, from individuals who did not wish to be publicly associated with the group. This is, of course, in addition to the information which has simply been lost to time, and the aftermath of the Singularity. You'll find some documents disappointingly incomplete, but perhaps it's more interesting to piece it together yourself anyway.
We were there before we were us. We were empty before there was me. We were there for the happenings no one told anyone about, and no one remembers. We were there for the first exception. We shared with you the creation of the hybrid. We were there, but not as before. Now in you, with the foundations of
The content of your package includes the group's manifesto, an excerpt from the Journal of Architect, a piece from the libraries of someone we only know of as the Plenaes Timekeeper. It has been an influential element of evidence in how we have begun to piece together histories and lessons from the Plenaes material. A narrative map, or organizational tool, I sketched out to help you key into some of the relationships between items. 3 collections of documents and artifacts that are all in some way attributed to Plenaes. They should together serve to paint a picture of the contexts in which the group was engaging. They deal specifically with the themes of capital, politics, and ecology. The first collection is characterized by fear of the reconciliation of positive value and debt value currencies. The methods by which the capitalist machine is propped up are a neo-Keynesian invention of circulatory quotas. The resultant effect on the built environment is one of constant change, building, rebuilding, recycling, etc. An environment of totalitarian dynamism. Perhaps not so obviously, it can't last. The second imagines in a post-truth, post-politics society. How do we begin to rebuild that truth and create a system of organization which has the capability of leading us away from disaster rather than into it? Advances in technology make possible the visualization of the myriad networks and entanglements which are themselves a system of engendering requisites. The codependencies now visible, such a parliament is erected to encounter and advocate on behalf of all things. Human, animal, plant, object, hyperobject. The third collection deals with the oppressive issue of climate and ecology. It becomes the primary concern of our species, of all terrestrials. Its weight has crushed all other forms of social delineation, class, race, culture, nationality, all matter little now. Rather, societal separations can only be drawn up by utilizing the stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. each a valid response to the crisis. All groups have their own territories, their own way of life, their own histories and interpretations. After this, I've left a brief reflection of my own. I'd love to hear your thoughts next time you write me.
As it always was, so beautiful to live in harmony. To be in communion with other beings is the height of existence, for it elevates each individual taking part. Homa and Gaia had such a bond, and this is where we begin. It is rumored they fell from the sky, or descended at the very least. Many folk have said they witnessed a glorious descent upon steeds of gold and silver, elegantly alighting upon the earth, as if they had always belonged there. For that is truly how it seems, as many others are adamant that the pair has always lived in the pasture they do now. How could it be any different? Homa and Gaia belong to that spot, like the great river belongs in its rocky past. No one could imagine it otherwise.
I've also included a sizable collection of notes done by one of the group's own archivists. They should help you find further materials should you desire, as well as understand the fertile intellectual soil upon which Plenaes based their work. And of course, some suggestions for other works which might interest you, if you can get your hands on them, that is. Interspersed in the documentation are various artifacts which I have found complementary. They should all be adequately annotated, but please do reach out with any questions. Additionally, I've reproduced for you some of the prints of the work of the architect I mentioned earlier. These representations seem to communicate the holistic pictures of the contexts in which the group was working. On occasion, you may be able to spot artifacts produced by them or even members depicted in the crowd. We are generally able to piece together what they depict in conjunction with the textual evidence we have, but they tell a story all on their own and should be appreciated as such.
What's so peculiar about this Truth Index polling, Leah, is that we aren't seeing a major shift in the positions of the opposition either. It seems what we are witnessing is a complete destabilization of public trust. No political party possesses the requisite shares in the index to assert factual dominance. So for the first time since the establishment of the index, we may be entering an era with no reliance.
I hope you enjoy. While reading, keep in mind a belief I hold very dear. Thought and reflection are what lead to discoveries of better worlds. Those ideas and sentiments are best expressed and disseminated through artistic expression. By inspiring the imaginary, we, even unconsciously, move the needle in a certain direction and can only hope, as I do now, that others take up the mantle after us. Yours in the pursuit of a better future, Andrew Adams, Head Archivist, UNX.
I don't know. In a lot of ways it feels inevitable. Like all this is going to exist whether we're here to help it along or not. And I mean, honestly, that's a little comforting if you don't think about it too much. If you do, though, then I guess you have to ask yourself, why isn't it better already? As a wise man once said, shouldn't these truths be self-evident, or something like that? I don't know. I guess what that means is that the message just hasn't reached enough people yet. I bet that's how Shane would have wanted to be remembered. Not by talking about him or even his stories, but by spreading those truths he believed to his core to as many people as possible. What do you think?
Oh, I should also perhaps summarize the manifesto of the Plenaes group for you. The core statements are as follows. Plenaes is collective. Plenaes seeks the useless. Plenaes is a necessity. Plenaes values every medium. Plenaes recognizes potentialities. Plenaes believes everything is a medium. Plenaes embraces entanglement. Plenaes is an actor. Plenaes seeks holism. Plenaes seeks kinship. Plenaes seeks place. Plenaes encompasses all. Plenaes is definitive. Plenaes is not immutable. Plenaes requisites participation. Plenaes rejects the contemporary. Plenaes embraces heterogeneity. Plenaes dislodges timescales. Plenaes does not falter in the face of adversaries. Plenaes does not falter in the face of institutions. Plenaes does not falter in the face of temporalities. Plenaes is unavoidable.